All right, ladies and gentlemen, the brand new update is finally live after an extra 2.5 hours of maintenance than usual. So understandably, players are frustrated and a little bit upset, and then the problems don't stop there. It's not just the maintenance that was extra long. It also appears that there's multiple bugs in the game right now. So to say that this was a botched or flawed update is no exaggeration. And I gotta say, and this is something I was worried about, I think the devs are fumbling a lot of the goodwill that they had built up over the last update. Now, there are some good spots for this update, for sure. There are definitely some good spots. There's definitely some nice stuff to talk about, some rewards, some content. But I do think that the majority of things that players are going to be focusing on are going to be either neutral or negative. So I just want to get those out of the way at first, especially if you're just jumping into the game and you're testing stuff out and you're finding that things are not making sense. Hopefully I can alleviate some of that confusion by clearing it up. So this was just updated 10 minutes ago. The known issues for the March update. Right now there's only one known issue, which is that the ABX mode is bugged. So if you go into Alliance Battle Extreme and you play and your score is a lot lower than you expected, this is not because of you, this is because of the game. So it basically seems like the canceling effect, where you cancel the roar of the Frost Beast, is not working. Even if you cancel it visually, it will appear as though you've canceled it, but then the boss will still get a buff. So yeah, it's causing people to score 1, 2, 3 million points less in some cases. Based on different runs with different characters. So yeah, this is an issue that's known. However, this is the only issue really that they're talking about right now. The other issues here just have to do with the camera, just have to do with, just kind of stupid issues, hero portraits and stuff that really doesn't matter, just like cosmetic stuff. But there does appear to be another major, I would say, noticeable bug in the game, and that has to do with Thanos' new uniform. Now, aesthetically, looks gorgeous, and we'll talk about that later. We'll talk about the uniform options, etc. But the bug right now that I want to highlight so that the devs can see it, so that the players know about it, is that it appears that at least one part of his uniform passive, his new uniform's 4-star passive is not applying whatsoever, and that is the Hero Slayer all defense. So in the Hero Slayer passive, that first line of text gives him super armor and then increases all defense by 50%. That is just genuinely not occurring. And you can test this out very easily by switching to his previous uniform, the Farmer Thanos uniform, which does not have this buff at all. So if we go over to Farmer Thanos, you can check his passives. This one gives him all of the increased damage to debuff targets and skill damage, bonus damage. This one gives him increased damage to heroes and villains, and it gives him a heal. And then his uniform effect is what gives him the damage reduction, the pierce, and the heal. So anyway, there's no all defense here, right? There's no all defense anywhere here on his passives. As you can see, his defense is 45,700 and then 45,000 on the energy defense, right? So 45 and 45, 45.7 and 45.0. So you would expect it to go up a lot when you switch to this uniform, because this uniform has 50% increase all defense. Well, let's take a look. Equip the new uniform, 46 and 46. It barely moves. It barely moves. So something is absolutely going on. And the reason we can also double check that this is happening is that if you apply a defensive leadership that gives all defense, for example, Blue Marvel, or for example, Strife, right? His leadership gives, I believe, 50% all defense to all allies. If you go ahead and drag in Strife here, now that 46 has changed to 56 and 55. So yeah, it seems as though at least one part of Thanos' passive is not working. That's a pretty big deal, right? Missing more than 10,000 defense, or about 10,000 defense, is large, right? Considering going from 46 to 56, he's missing about 25% more defense. That's a lot. That's a lot of defense. So what else in his uniform is bugged? We don't know, but it's certainly creating issues with the game, and it's certainly causing players to be frustrated. And understandably, it's kind of an annoying bug. The last thing I want to talk about, I don't know if it's a bug, but I will mention it in case this has happened to other people, because it happened to me, and it's very unusual. So with the new changes to World Boss, they're great. I think the changes are awesome, and we'll highlight them, and we'll talk about them in just a minute here. But one thing I noticed, well, I didn't notice it. It happened to me, I should say. I spent, as you can see there, 4 million. So it goes up from 300,000. It keeps going up. I spent about 50 million gold 50,000,000, 50 million gold, 50 million, rolling my world boss legend of the day, and I never saw Black Swan, not even once. I saw every other world boss multiple times, except for her. I don't know if it's a bug. There's only 7 of them, so it's a 1 in 7 chance. So again, I don't know if it's possible, but I missed a 1 in 7, which is a 14% chance. I missed it like more than 20 times. Easily, like maybe 30 times I missed it. Now, I know that's not impossible. It's just that the odds of that are very small. I'm just saying. I know other people were able to roll Black Swan as their world boss of the day, and I'm happy for you. I'm not saying that it's completely bugged, but maybe it was bugged. Maybe it was bugged for some accounts and not bugged for other accounts. I'm just bringing this up in case this happened to anybody else and they lost 50, 60 million gold, so that maybe the devs can look into it, and then if it was bugged, they can refund us the gold, because it wouldn't be the first time. It wouldn't even be the first time this month that the rates were not as advertised. Wink, wink, artifacts. Cough, cough. Anyways, so those are the issues right now that are plaguing the game in terms of bugs. Now, as far as the uniforms go, they're gorgeous. Aesthetically, they're amazing. These are some of the nicest uniforms we've ever seen. I have to say, you know, you have static effects with Satana's hand and Thanos' sword. You have really cool new designs that we've never seen before, like Angel with these demonic wings and these horns, right? You're really seeing the devs, the art department for sure, push to a new level. So that's absolutely gorgeous. And even Black Swan looks really good. I don't have her unlocked yet, right? Nobody has her unlocked. But even Black Swan with a very simplistic design still manages to look quite good. That is really good. As far as the uniform options go, they're quite disappointing, I have to say. We did see them in the live stream, but just to reiterate here, Thanos probably has one of the only good uniform options, and that does feature an old Doctor Strange and Hyperion. And it does feature, you know, it's 4 tier 3s, which is good, but it really should have been the newer Doctor Strange. The rest of the uniforms and their optionals really are just much worse. You know, Shadow Shell, Malekith, Domino, Nick Fury, and Silver Surfer Black are crazy. Not a single meta uniform, and then it just gets worse from there. As far as the uniform's performance, we can't really judge Thanos wins right now because of the bug. On the flip side, Thanos Farmer seems to be very good, so people are really happy with this one. I would, however, caution players against buying this right away. And the reason for that is essentially FOMO. There's still FOMO because this uniform is limited time, so players are rushing to make decisions, but you do have 2 weeks to buy this uniform. So I would wait and see more comparisons. I would wait and see more performance tests from Farmer Thanos for PvE specifically before going out and spending 2,500 crystals on this uniform. Additionally, I want to point this out. I did it on the live stream, but I wanted to point it out again. It's very important because of the changes to World Boss Legend difficulty that players are acutely aware of any reviews that are released after the update that feature bossing against Ultron or Gore. If you haven't had a chance to play against Gore or Ultron after they reduced their stats from the patch notes, their stats are reduced anywhere from 30 to 50%. That is a massive reduction in stats, making Ultron and Gore massively easier. These bosses are, I would say, much more in line with Null and Mephisto in terms of difficulty than before. They are no longer difficult bosses by any stretch of the imagination. And I was actually able to clear stage 80 of Ultron, certainly 84 as well, with a PvP built Farmer Thanos. Now, I'm not saying that that means Farmer Thanos is good. What I'm saying is that means that Ultron is really easy. So we're going to have to wait and give it time to see where these bosses lie now, you know, to really figure out the new power level of these bosses so that we can more accurately assess the uniforms and future uniforms. Alternatively, you just have to see tests where players are using Thanos against Kang or Jean or Black Swan, because those bosses have not changed. But I would caution against any, you know, sensational videos that are showcasing, wow, this character, this uniform is so amazing. Look how they crush Ultron. Look how they crush Gore. Everybody's crushing Ultron now. Everybody's crushing Gore now. It's just a dunk fest. They nerfed and neutered these bosses. As far as how I feel about that, I will say that it's sort of a double-edged sword. On the one hand, there's probably a lot of players that are happy about this because they struggled against these bosses and they felt like they weren't making progress, and now they can make progress, and that's great. On the other hand, I do feel like the game is a bit too casual sometimes, and I think that in general, Netmarble suffers from this obsession and this sort of fixation with having hyper-casual games, and it hurts their games, frankly, because players actually want a challenge. Players now more than ever want to be challenged, and you can see that in the success of games like Elden Ring and other games where players want to be pushed. Players want to be, met with a wall of force and difficulty, not just artificial difficulty, right? Not just higher numbers, more defense, but they actually want to be challenged. They want to be creatively, critically, forced to analyze and rethink and try different strategies and sort of feel as though there's a battle going on. If you're just going in and slamming and crushing every time, it feels almost pointless. And the other issue with it feeling pointless is that it really devalues different characters, and especially newer characters, because you say, okay, well, why should I build Thanos or Angel or any of these new tier 4s at all? I'm crushing Gore now. I can just go back and use my Iron Man that I tier 4'd 2 years ago. And yeah, you actually can do that now very easily because they made these bosses easier. So I would caution the devs against any more nerfs to content. Frankly, we need more difficult content, in my opinion. More than that, though, we do need buffs and serious improvements to PvP content. So I don't want to harp too much on it, but it is something that I've seen the community a bit divided on, so I did want to bring it up. Some people are really happy about the changes with Ultron and Gore. Some people are disappointed that now it's just way too easy, and it sort of just invalidates all of the effort that they had been putting into the game for those bosses specifically. And I can certainly see both sides. I can certainly see both angles. I'm sort of leaning towards siding with the players who are unhappy with this, which honestly, overall, makes this update seem like a pretty bad update. If it weren't for the changes to World Boss, this would be the worst update of the year. I think it would be worse than the Madeline update. But because of the changes to World Boss, this is actually still a good update. Now, as far as the changes go, they've segmented Ultimate and Legend, which is really good because now you have 2 different World Bosses of the day, which means your odds of getting a World Boss Legend have more than doubled, right? They were about 6% before. Now they're up above 14%. So that's very, very good. Not enough percentage, obviously, for some people to get Black Swan, but that is what it is. We also do have the new World Boss Legend Black Swan. I'm not going to show you guys the full fight. I'll have a dedicated video on it later, but it's a pretty fun fight. It's certainly not, it doesn't seem to be, at least initially, as based on damage as other fights are, where the boss just has more HP and more defense. It does seem to be a little bit different, but not too much different, I will say. I think the devs were a little bit, I think they exaggerated a little bit with this content, that it was going to be so different. You still need to deal a lot of damage, right? Dealing damage is still the main goal here. I will say that Black Swan does have more patterns, more interesting patterns than a lot of the other bosses do. And the patterns don't necessarily kill you, but they still are patterns that you want to respect because they deal damage, they knock your character back, they interrupt you, etc. But yeah, this is not like a huge departure from the existing World Boss formula, right? There aren't very many cutscenes, and there's only a couple of scenes where you actually see the boss sort of, move around and interrupt you like this. So this doesn't happen too often. But this shield gimmick, honestly, is just damage. You just have to deal damage. There's not really any reward here. I would say this is probably less creative than Ultron with the auto attack, which, in my opinion, makes it, not worse, but again, I think players are going to be excited about this content because it gives better rewards. I was getting 38 to 40 Carbonadium every single run, and it wasn't my boss of the day. So you could easily clear 50 to 60 Carbonadium per run against Black Swan. And I tested it out, and you can beat it without a brilliant CTP. You can beat stage 1 without any Pierce. So as long as you have tier 4s, you're good. It's not like you need a stacked account to take on this content. And so, yeah, I think it's... I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, for the rewards case, in the case of rewards, I'm just going to be playing this for the next, 6 months, easily. And that's, I guess, what the devs wanted. but I also think that the devs need to get serious about the rest of the game, and they need to start putting effort into it, because making new world bosses is not going to keep players around forever. It's really not. It's genuinely not going to. They need to focus on the rest of the game, and they need to bring it up to par and up to the level of polish that World Boss has, rather than letting everything else suffer and only paying attention to World Boss. It's like you have 10 children and you're only feeding one of the children, and so that one child is growing up big and strong, and all of your other children, it's kind of an ugly analogy, but all of your other children are frail and emaciated and weak, and you're sitting there going, why? I wonder why my other 9 children don't play sports and don't run around all energetic like my favorite child. My favorite child is dunking and doing the 100-meter dash and hurdles and, you know, the javelin. Wow, why can't they be like my, you know, the only child that I feed? Well, it's because you're only feeding the one child, right? So kind of get your head out of your ass and do your job properly, and then we don't have this issue, essentially. So, yeah. As you can tell, I'm a little bit frustrated with this update. I think it's bad, and I think it's going to frustrate players right before the anniversary, which is exactly what I told them they needed to avoid, but nobody really listens to us until it's too late, right? We sort of see that in action. So, yeah, try to enjoy the world boss changes, the book pity system. That's great. Otherwise, this whole update might be a skip for most people, to be honest, because Angel is really bad at 70. He needs 80 or tier 4 minimum to be relevant in PvP, and that's kind of a big ask. Actually, I will say this. The only really good thing about this update, for sure, well, not the only other really good thing about this update besides the world boss and the changes there is that Angel was added to the tier 4 advancement system. So a lot of people were speculating that new tier 4s would not be added unless you had all existing characters tier 4'd and your list was empty. But as you can see, my list is not empty, and I do have Angel there. So this is a really good thing. This is fantastic, right? Which basically means that you can just wait until the character you want is available. As soon as they're released, boom, you can get that 40% discount and you can go. I think that's great. It also means that they'll also appear if you've already done the 40% upgrade and you're on to your 25% upgrades, 25% off upgrades. But yeah, not a lot. Not a lot to be excited about in this update. Also, not a lot to experience because it's just one world boss fight. But yeah, we'll see how the devs respond. We'll see how the Thanos bug gets fixed. We'll see if he's, you know, more relevant for PvP and stuff. And yeah, I wouldn't say for players to take a break right now because the anniversary is right around the corner. And keep in mind, just because we got the seasonal uniforms, it doesn't mean that there's no more updates for the rest of the month. For the next 30 days. I mean, I saw this question from a couple of people, like, what are we gonna do for 30 days? Because they already released the seasonal uniforms. I think we're still gonna have a mid-month update in about 2 weeks. I think it's just going to be just, you know, characters and uniforms. It'll be like, you know, when we got Mystique uniform and Mystique tier 4, it'll be like that. Just because we got the seasonals now doesn't mean we can't get something later. So I'm already looking forward to that, to be honest with you, because this doesn't really interest me. Angel's not very strong. Satana's not very strong. Black Swan will be very fun to build up tomorrow, but outside of Black Swan and maybe Thanos, that's all there is to do for 2 weeks. So yeah, hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what your thoughts are. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.